රැස් විහිදෙන ජීවිතේ.
කොවිඩ්
විදුරු මසින් ලේ දලන එක සුළු කොට තකන්න එපා.
ලින්ක් සුදන් ආරක්ෂාකාර පූර්ණ මුඛ සෞඛ්‍ය විශේෂඥයා.
විදුරු මසින් ලේ දලන එක සුළු කොට තකන්න එපා.
ලින්ක් සුදන් ආරක්ෂාකාර පූර්ණ මුඛ සෞඛ්‍ය විශේෂඥයා.
ඔයා ගාව ක්‍රැකර් එකක් තියෙනවද?
ක්‍රැකර්? මෙන්න.
මේක නෙමෙයි.
ඔයා ඇහුවේ පෑඩ් ගැනද? ඇයි ඒකට ලැජ්ජ වෙන්නේ? එහෙම වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේක පෑඩ් එකක් විතරයි. එච්චරයි.
ඒකනේ ඕක සාමාන්‍ය දෙයක්.
ඔබේ ඔසප් සෞඛ්‍ය ඔබේ සෞඛ්‍යම කොටසක්. ඉතින් ඇයි ඔබ එය ලැජ්ජාවෙන් හංගන්න හදන්නේ? Break the taboo.
Magic chocolate collection.
විදුරු මසින් ලේ දලන එක සුළු කොට තකන්න එපා.
ලින්ක් සුදන් ආරක්ෂාකාර පූර්ණ මුඛ සෞඛ්‍ය විශේෂඥයා.
විදුරු මසින් ලේ දලන එක සුළු කොට තකන්න එපා.
ලින්ක් සුදන් ආරක්ෂාකාර පූර්ණ මුඛ සෞඛ්‍ය විශේෂඥයා.
Hello there, greetings from Colombo everybody. I'm Hassan Shazuli and this is Lunchtime News on News First, where the people come first. We've got plenty of stories lined up for you this afternoon, including the latest developments in Parliament and the latest decisions taken by the government. But first, let's take a look at your headlines this afternoon.
Another Sri Lankan dies while waiting in line for fuel. President gazettes essential services while thousands still wait in line for fuel. Railway lands for cultivations. Opposition MPs boycott Parliament. Series decider for Sri Lanka as they face Australia in 4th ODI.
Welcome to the news. In your top story this afternoon, many opposition parties, including the Samagi Jana Balawege and the National People's Power, have decided to boycott parliamentary sessions for a week from today. The chairman of the CEB tells COPE that the president and the prime minister influenced to betray the national resources to foreign companies. Thereafter, he says that he was emotional because of the need to pass a bill in parliament. 121 parliamentarians voted for that bill to commit theft. That CEB chairman has since then resigned, but our privileges have been violated. Either he spoke the truth or was influenced to withdraw it, or he lied. Today, people are suffering in lines and the authorities are looting. You say I did not accept the post, but you have no clue about the people's mandate. If you have a backbone, step out onto the streets. Does this government not understand the pulse of the people? The SJB and the progressive movements in the opposition have taken a decision to boycott this week's parliamentary session against the government. When the people's issues were raised, the president did not listen. He said he does it better and acted in that way. When the people are facing shortages and the president has not carried out his responsibility, the people asked him to leave. That is a justifiable request. What happened? The president and new prime minister formed a government similar to the one of the 52-day coup that took place. He made Ranil Wickremesinghe the prime minister. It's been more than a month. He is a spokesperson for the crisis rather than solving it. The government must produce a program to address the crisis. They must stop the unnecessary moves and there will be no point in any debate. Therefore, we the opposition have decided to boycott the parliamentary session for a week. This is not an all-party government. A proper all-party government must be formed along with a national council. They have appointed a prime minister. A prime minister should not be appointed to protect one's power. Now, the Supreme Court has sent its determination on the proposed 21st Amendment to the Constitution to the Speaker of Parliament. The court said some clauses are inconsistent with the Constitution and therefore they need to be passed by a special majority in Parliament or a referendum. Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has published a gazette yesterday. He has declared electricity supply, medical treatment and fuel distribution as essential services. The gazette has been issued to prevent the disruption of services required by the people. On to other stories, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation says it will supply only 1,500 metric tons of petrol to the market daily.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation usually supplies 2,500 metric tons of petrol to the market daily, but this has been reduced to about 1,500 metric tons due to the petrol shortage. The CPC is to distribute 5,000 metric tons of diesel to the market daily. Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited says diesel will be supplied to the market without any interruption.
A 42-year-old father of one had reportedly died after returning home from a fuel queue after camping out at a filling station for almost 2 days. The deceased was a resident from Bandaragama and he had visited the filling station on the 18th of June. The Poddala filling station received fuel for the first time in many days and a tense situation arose following allegations that fuel was not distributed in a proper manner. The residents of Poddala have been queuing up expecting fuel for many days. Even though the filling stations received fuel today, many assumed that it would not be sufficient for all who were in line. Our correspondent said that the vehicular movement along the Gol-Badigama road was disrupted due to this. There was no fuel at most filling stations in Colombo this morning. This was the situation at the filling station in Slave Island. Long queues were seen at the filling station down Flower Road as well. People who were in line at the Sipetco filling station near the Vayangura flyover allege that even though the filling station received diesel, it was not distributed among the people. People at the Dehiovita filling station in Kegol have been waiting in queues for about a week. People spent the night at the queue in belief that fuel would be distributed. However, our correspondent said that there was no fuel as of this morning. The Ministry of Power and Energy states that a ship carrying petrol will arrive in the island on the 24th. A senior official said that the ship will bring a shipment of 35,000 metric tons of petrol. Meanwhile, it is reported that another crude oil tanker will arrive in the island on the 28th. The Lanka Private Bus Owners Association states that bus services are still operating at 50% capacity. Meanwhile, the All Ceylon Private Bus Owners Association stated that the supply of fuel for private bus depots is not being done regularly. The Sri Lanka Transport Board states that bus services are still operating as usual. The Sri Lanka Transport Board said it had sufficient fuel reserves to operate the bus services. Meanwhile, it has been decided to supply fuel to the staff attached to health services from selected filling stations from Friday. Secretary to the Ministry of Health, Janaka Sri Chandragupta, stated that discussions were held with the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Vijayasekara, regarding the provision of fuel for medical staff, including doctors. The Secretary stated that necessary steps will be taken to provide fuel to the medical staff at selected filling stations in each district.
Many students in rural areas are finding it difficult to go to school due to the fuel shortage that has affected transport services. Now, officials in those areas have decided to keep schools open, although schools in Colombo remain closed.
The fuel shortage has affected transport services across Sri Lanka. Children and teachers are among the worst affected, leading to poor turnout at schools. schools in the Kandy town remain closed today. Although many schools in other parts of Kandy were kept open, children were unable to go to school. A similar situation was seen in Mathura as well.
News First with the people.
The government says it has not allowed anyone to hoard fuel stocks. Spokesmen for the cabinet say the government is trying to reduce congestion at filling stations.
කටේම ජනතාව මේ වෙලාවේ බලාකවද්ද නැවත පෙට්‍රල් නෞකාවක් එන්නේ කියලා. පංචන විජේසේකර අමාත්‍යවරයා පසුගිය සඳහන් කළ 23 වෙනිදා පෙට්‍රල් නෞකාවක් ඒ වගේම 24 වෙනිදා ඩීසල් නෞකාවක්ම පොරොන්දු වෙච්ච විදියට මේ දිනවලට මේ නෞකා ලැබෙනවාද කියලා දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
23 වෙනිදාට පෙට්‍රල් නෞකාවක් එනවා. ඒ වගේම
A petrol cargo will arrive on the 24th. This will reduce congestion at filling stations. Fuel is to be rationed. It will be sold by giving priority to essential services. We will raid places where diesel and petrol stocks are being hoarded.
සොයා ගිහිල්ලා ඒ අය වත්තඩංගුවට ගන්න වැඩපිළිවෙල වඩාත් විධිමත් කරන්න කියන යෝජනාවක් ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
දැන් බොහෝ ඉන්ධන පිරවුම් හල්වල ජනතාව පොලිමේදී පාතාලයට සම්බන්ධ පිරිස් ඇවිල්ලා ජනතාවට තර්ජනය කරලා පොලිම් පැනලා තෙල් ලබා ගන්නවා කියලා බොහෝ ඉන්ධන පිරවුම් හල්වලින් වාර්තා වෙනවා. ඒක මර්ධනය කරන්න ඔබතුමාලා මොකක් හරි වැඩපිළිවෙලක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවද?
පාතාලයේ හෝ ඒ වගේ කණ්ඩායම් මේ ඉන්ධන හල්වල ඉඳගෙන
There are reports suggesting that underworld members are there. They attack police officers along with the others when police try to bring the situation under control.
එයාට ප්‍රහාර එල්ල කිරීම දක්වාම ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මේක පාලනය කරගන්න ජනතාවගේ සහයෝගය ඕන.
ජනතාව ගෑස් නැති නිසා භූමි තෙල් පාවිච්චි කරලා තමයි කේමතු යන්නේ. නමුත් මේ කාලය තුල භූමි තෙල්ට ලොකු ඉගයක් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ජනතාව පේ ගානකින් පොලිම් වල රැඳී සිටින්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. නමුත් භූමි තෙල් ලබා ගැනීමට හැකියාවක් නැහැ. රජයෙන් යම් වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තියෙනවද?
කාන්තන විජේසේකර ඇමතුමාට යොමු කරන්න එතුමා ඊයේ
Minister Kanchana Wijesekara will make a statement on that.
ඔයිල් නිෂ්පාදනය ආරම්භ කරනවා සපුගස්කන්දේ. ඒකෙන් පස්සේ භූමි තෙල් සැපයුමක් කරන්න වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් කරන්න ප්‍රස්තාව ලැබෙන බව
දඹුල්ල සහ අනිකුත් ආර්ථික මධ්‍යස්ථානවල මෙම ඉන්ධන නොමැතිකම නිසා එම කෘෂි නිෂ්පාදනවල එම ක්‍රියාවලිය කර ගැනීමට නොහැකි බවක් ලොකු බාධාවක් පැමිණිලා තියෙනවා ඉන්ධන ගැටලුව නිසා. මිල වැඩිවීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් මේක බොහෝ විට ගැටලුවක් වෙලා ඇති කියලා මම හිතන නිසා.
දැන් ඔබ කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ ඔබ සියලු දෙනා කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ අපිට හොඳින් වැටහෙනවා. මොකද අපේ පවුල් වල අයත් දවස හමාර පෝලිං වල ඉඳලා ඉවරලා අනිත් තෙල් ලබා ගන්න.
We understand these difficulties, but we are helpless. It's difficult for us to distribute fuel as there are no dollars.
දැන් මුදල් ගෙවලා ඕනේ තෙල් ලබා ගන්න. එතකොට මුදල් රුපියල් ගෙවුවට රුපියල් වලට අවශ්‍ය ඩොලර් හොයා ගන්න. ඩොලර් මිලදී ගන්න බෑ.
මේ ඛනිජ තෙල් අර්බුදයට විකල්පයක් හැටියට යම්කිසි සලාක ක්‍රමයක් ඇති කරන්න බැරිද කියලා.
ප්‍රමාණාංශයේ තියෙන ඒවට CTB default ලබා දෙන ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි කරලා.
The Energy Minister raised this matter in yesterday's cabinet meeting. Fuel for public transport services will be distributed through government bus depots. We will implement a plan to sell fuel based on the vehicle number and the corresponding day that we have assigned.
අමාරුම අවධිය මේ අවධිය කිව්ව ඊට පසු දීර්ඝකාලීන වශයෙන් ඛනිජ තෙල් හා ගෑස් වලට ස්ථිර වැඩපිළිවෙලක් සකස් කරගෙන යන බව කිව්වේ.
Meanwhile, the gas shortage has also left people standing in queues in many areas of the country. Officials are still discussing methods of importing gas to the country. The delay in receiving gas shipments have left people in queues across many areas. People who have been in line opposite the Samanala playground in Gaul haven't been able to buy gas, although they have been there for 2 weeks.
ගෑස් පොලිමේ ඉන්නොත් ගෙදරවල එහෙම ගෙදරවල කිසි වැඩක් කරන්නේ නැහැ.
කොහොමද හම්බුෙත් දන්නේ නැති මිනිස්සු සෑහෙන දුක් විඳිනවා අවුවට කර වෙනවා වැස්සට තෙමෙනවා මිනිස්සු මාර දුකක් විඳින්නේ.
A new stock of LAF cylinders that arrived in Walgama in Mathura was not enough to meet the demand. Many people had to return home empty-handed. Now the cabinet has approved a proposal to hand over a 10-acre land in Muthrajwala to the Ceylon Electricity Board. The land is located near the Yugadanayu power plant. It is to be used to construct an LNG power plant that can generate 300 megawatts of electricity. Now hospitals in Sri Lanka are facing a severe shortage of medicine. That's because the government doesn't have dollars to import them. The Government Medical Officers Association raised concerns on this matter today.
දැක්කා සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යවරයාගෙන් ප්‍රකාශයක් කරනවා The health minister has said he had enough medicine stocks. The issue is whether those stocks are there at hospitals. If that is not the case, then there is a problem regarding the supply of medicines. At the eye hospital, there is only one variety of antibiotics. Other hospitals are running out of medicines. The health ministry is receiving foreign aid to buy medical supplies. The finance ministry has also allocated money for that. They say they will import medicines under an Indian credit line, but there is a delay in receiving medicines. If there are medicines, the health ministry must speed up distribution.
ඒ වෙනකොට රජයට සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයට විදේශ ආධාර ලැබීමෙන් පවතිනවා. ඒ වගේම මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් මුදල් අනුයුක්ත කිරීම නැත්නම් ඒ මුදල් ලබා ගැනීම මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශය මගින් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා කියනවා. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඉන්දියානු ආධාර ක්‍රමයේ යටතේ ඖෂධ වර්ග ලංකාවට ගෙන්වීමට කටයුතු කරනවා කියනවා. හැබැයි මෙහි දැඩි ප්‍රමාදයක් තියෙනවා මේ ඖෂධ ලැබීමට. ඖෂධ තියෙනවා නම් සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ බෙදා හැරීම ඉක්මනට කරන්න.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said he will look into ways of stabilizing Sri Lanka's economy through tourism and investments. He was speaking to Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Milinda Moragoda, yesterday.
Sri Lanka's High Commissioner Milinda Moragoda had appreciated India taking up the case of Sri Lanka with the IMF, other multilateral institutions and bilateral development partners. India's External Affairs Minister had recently said an Indian parliamentary committee had unanimously agreed to provide funding to Sri Lanka.
The government has decided to cultivate 14,000 acres of reserved lands belonging to Sri Lanka Railways. The Cabinet of Ministers had approved a proposal to this effect that was presented by the Minister of Highways to provide these lands on lease for agricultural practices for 1 year. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said various crops and grains such as mung beans will be cultivated in these lands. The police media division says an activist who was arrested yesterday for blocking the entrance to the president's office in Colombo will be produced in court today. The protesters convened a media briefing to oppose this move last night. The very same rulers who refused to go to the IMF for more than 2 years, who fooled us by giving false excuses to avoid going to the IMF, are today saying that we are facing a barrier in going to the IMF. We have one question. Are the rulers mere lunatics to hold the IMF discussions at a place where we have been protesting for more than 73 days? It is one condition of this people's struggle to bring each and every person who goes against these demonstrations in front of a people's judiciary once we have won the struggle. We are telling the officials of the military and the STF to work according to their heart's conscience. People who are travelling have also been arrested. This is suppression that the Rajpaksas are known for. We will not leave room for this suppression in future. A special program was held today at the Independence Square in Colombo. This was to mark International Yoga Day.
The event was organised by the Indian High Commission and was attended by a group including Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The United Nations has declared International Yoga Day since 2014. International Yoga Day is celebrated across 11 countries on this day.
There are various energy knots in the wrist region, and this practices activates those different energy knots. It is called as Varma.
Start off with a representative.
In sports, it's cricket. Sri Lanka will take on Australia in the fourth one-day international match of this series. The game will be played at the Ranasinghe Premadasa Stadium in Colombo starting from 2:30 p.m.
ඔයා ගාව ක්‍රැකර් එකක් තියෙනවද?
ක්‍රැකර්? මෙන්න.
මේක නෙමෙයි.
ඔයා ඇහුවේ පෑඩ් ගැනද? ඇයි ඒකට ලැජ්ජ වෙන්නේ? එහෙම වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේක පෑඩ් එකක් විතරයි. එච්චරයි.
ඒකනේ. ඕක සාමාන්‍ය දෙයක්.
ඔබේ ඔසප් සෞඛ්‍ය ඔබේ සෞඛ්‍යම කොටසක්. ඉතින් ඇයි ඔබ එය ලැජ්ජාවෙන් හංගන්න හදන්නේ? Break the taboo.
ඔයා ගාව ක්‍රැකර් එකක් තියෙනවද?
ක්‍රැකර්?
Who is here on News First? More news follows on our website. www.newsfirst.lk is the address. I've been Hassan Shazali. Take care and God bless.